listening to Let's Stay Together, a podcast about Fruits Basket by Natsuki Takaya. I'm Ellen.
And I'm Kayla.
And today we are reading chapters 27 and 28 of Fruits Basket. Woo!
Yeah.
I don't know. Whatever. Also, I have a random minor announcement, which is that I put all of the episodes on YouTube. So if you're like the kind of person that constantly watches stuff on YouTube, which I know a couple people who are, IRL, then, and you want to just like put this and listen to it, then you can. Congrats. Now you can. I don't know if anyone genuinely consumes podcast content on YouTube, but whatever. I'm not judging. I just put it in a place where you can watch it and listen to it. There's no extra visuals though. You just get to stare at the logo or like the album art for this podcast for like an hour while we talk about stuff, but
Anyway, it is lovely, so
it's fine. I drew those onigiri with my hands, so predicting the future while I was at it. I mean, so anyway, I just wanted to say if you're one of those people that really likes YouTube, then all our content is there. All the like more recent episodes, all like I don't know, whatever. All of them are up there, and they'll be released there as well going forward. So, yay! I guess I don't know. Hooray. We'll see what happens. So we're discussing chapters 27 and 28. We're going to summarize them, discuss, and then spoilers after a short break. So chapter 27 starts with if you're reading one of the collector's editions ones, all the author's notes are removed, and sometimes we talk about them. We haven't talked about one in a while, but the first one at the beginning of chapter 27 that's in the original Tokyo Pop version says, I feel like it's high time I introduce Kisa. Actually, now that I think of it, it's more like Yuki somehow summoned her. The way I see it, the hardships in our lives never disappear completely. There must be an exit waiting for us somewhere at the end. Well, I want to think that. I wonder. I don't know. I just thought it was interesting. Takaya's comments are sometimes interesting. Sometimes they're just talking, for like many, many author's notes in a row, it'll be talking about video games that I've like never heard of. But sometimes there's a little like, I don't know, it's just like the hardships in our lives never could disappear completely. That was an interesting thing to say.
They're all like JRPGs and visual novels, which don't get translated. So,
no,
like I recognize a title once in a while, but
so like Sakura Wars, I feel like I've heard of. But like most of them like I don't know what that means. Anyway, so the chapter proper opens with Yuki and Tohru hiding from the rain under like a random like garage or doorway or something. While they're walking home with groceries. Tohru says out loud that the lake house was fun, and then Yuki says he won't miss the noise. And then we have a flashback of them having like hand roll sushi sitting around, and like Ayame is pouring Hattori a drink, and looks like they're having a great time. When we see Toru's narration, now that Golden Week is over, there'll be midterms, and the student council election is coming up. Tohru says that she heard that the previous president wants Yuki to be a successor, and Yuki sighs, and then he says he doesn't know what the president is expecting. It would be a problem if people had the wrong idea, he says. The real me is more, but then he trails off, and Tohru is like more, and then he says it's nothing. So, just a little interesting interaction from them. A soaking wet Haru appears out of nowhere, his outfit full of extraneous belt buckles. And Haru's like, what are you doing out here in the rain? And Yuki is like, that's my line, which is also funny. Tohru and Yuki go over to Haru, and Tohru actually like pulls out a handkerchief and dries his face off, which I thought was charming.
Yeah.
He says that he was out in the rain because he was looking for something, and not his rad bicycle, as it turns out. He's been carrying his coat, and he lifts back his coat to reveal a tiny tiger cub. This is what Haru was looking for. And what a cute cat, Tohru exclaims, and Yuki is like, I thought you'd say that. The tiger cub opens her eyes as Yuki explains, Handa-san, this is a tiger, which is really funny. Kisa Sohma, the tiger. Watch out when she bites, it hurts, Haru adds. Tohru freaks out and introduces herself, and then she holds out her hand, and Kisa bites it.
What did she hold in her hand like the tiger was going to shake it?
I know. Multiple times in this chapter, she holds out her hand like, why are you doing that? It's not a good idea. But also like how she's like, oh, what a cute cat. It's like, it's clearly a tiger. Like, have you never seen a tiger in a book or anything? Like, anyway, it's really funny. At Shigure's house, Kisa the tiger sits angrily in the corner, I feel. And Haru bandages Toru's hand, which I also thought was charming. So first she wiped off his face and then he bandaged her hand.
Yeah, I noticed that. It's cute.
Yeah, it's cute. Yuki demands that Kisa apologize, and Toru is like, it's okay, I'm fine. Shigure informs Yuki, and us, dear listener, that Sachan, as he calls her, doesn't speak. Haru adds on that according to Tori, she has an emotional problem that sealed away her ability to speak, and she hasn't spoken since shortly after she entered middle school. Because of everything that happened, she stopped talking, she doesn't go to school, and today she didn't come home, Haru says. So Haru went out to look for her and found her transformed, possibly from becoming weak. Yuki asks what happened, and Haru begins to explain that it was teasing, or, like, in the Yen press it says bullying, which I feel like is more accurate based on what happens, is revealed later in the chapter. And as he says this, Kisa hops up and bites his arm, and Haru, like, doesn't even bat an eye. And he's like, what, are you mad, though? He says, are you telling me not to tell them things that are none of their business? Be serious. Do you realize how much we've worried over you? Your mom is out looking everywhere for you right now. And Kisa jumps off the table and runs off, and Toru freaks out and is like, oh, what should I do? Hatsara-san, you're bleeding. Kisa-san is missing, and the blood. And Shigure is like, calm down. And then she stands up and is like, I have to get Kisa-san to stop the bleeding. And, like, tups her way out of the room, which is, I thought it was really funny.
Yeah, I love her combination of the problems.
Yeah, exactly. I have to get Kisa-san to stop the bleeding. So funny. Haru says that Shigure is being too calm, and Shigure asks if he went black there, and Haru says no. He was just annoyed because it hurts. That Kisa is hopeless, Haru says. You seem really worried about her. Are you two such good friends? Yuki asks, and Shigure and Haru are like, what, you jelly? Yuki is like, no. Haru says that he just can't leave her alone. She reminds me, Haru says, of that time that you wouldn't speak, Yuki. You would curl up in a ball and be completely silent. It was all you could do to protect yourself. That's what it reminds me of. And we see Yuki's face, his eyes are wide, and we have this, like, weird, like, textured effect on the outline, and then Yuki suddenly stands up and says, shut up. Come on, Shigure says. Is that a thing to get worked up about? Yes, it is, Yuki says. Are you embarrassed? Shigure asks, and we see Yuki's face, and he looks upset and angry, and he takes off as well. You know, Sensei, Haru says, you have a really bad habit of saying things that are like pouring oil onto a fire. Such is my nature, he replies, lightheartedly, after being such a dick. Like, what the hell? Anyway. Outside of the house, Toru finds Kisa hiding in a corner, again. And then Kisa bites her again, and Toru freaks out and is like, it's fine, it doesn't hurt that much. Toru tries to convince her to come back inside, and a woman suddenly appears and crouches beside Toru and quietly calls to Kisa. On the next page, we can see her face better, and she looks exhausted. Like, her eyes are drawn in this way that's kind of, like, lifeless looking. Like, they're empty. It's really strange. I didn't think about it until we were reading this time, but, yeah, it definitely has the effect of making her look exhausted.
Mm-hmm.
Kisa, she says. Kisa, it's your mother. Shigure-san made sure to call me. Hey, what are you doing? What are you doing causing trouble for everyone around you? What are you thinking? Do you enjoy worrying your mother? She asks. And while she speaks, Toru remembers Momiji's words. The mothers of children possessed by the vengeful spirits usually either become extremely overprotective of them or reject them. Hey, Kisa's mother continues, why didn't you tell me you were being teased? Why did you run away? We see a panel of Kisa still biting Toru's hand, and Yuki coming up behind them. Why won't you say anything? She asks. I'm sick of this. I don't want any more of this, she says. And I thought this was kind of, like, harsh sounding, so I also looked up what it is translated to in the Yen press, and what she says is, you've worn me out, I can't take it anymore. So it's kind of harsh, but it's not like I don't want any more of this or like I'm sick of this. Anyway, it's just like I'm tired and I can't take it anymore. She can't say it, Toru says. To tell someone who cares about you that you're being teased is really hard to do. I couldn't say it either. But after a while my mom found out, and then I apologized to her like I was stupid. I felt so pathetic. I thought I was pathetic for being teased. I was ashamed when Mom found out. I wondered what I would do if she started to hate me. I was so scared. And we see Yuki in what looks like his own memory, also stylized again. Like, I think the lines are kind of stylized in the same way as the other scene when he was reacting to Haru. And the overlaid thoughts, I think, from Toru are I think it's from Toru, but it's kind of ambiguous. It says, I was so scared. I didn't want anyone to know I was like that. I would desperately try to make up stories and try to hide it, and then I'd feel even more pathetic and ashamed. So, Tohru continues out loud, when Mom told me it's okay, I was relieved. When she told me there's nothing to be ashamed of, I was so relieved I started to cry again. Kisa-san might be feeling the same way. She didn't want you to hate her, Tohru says. And we see Yuki, who's still behind them, and his hands are kind of like, I wouldn't say they're fists, but they're kind of like clenched, like he's not relaxed. For sure. Mm-hmm. It's because she loves you, Tohru says, that she couldn't tell you. And we see a poof, and tears well up in Kisa's mother's eyes. And then we see a small hand touching Toru's bandaged hand. And we see some dialogue overlaid, which I think is Kisa's thoughts, that says, I'm sorry, but please. And then on the next page, we see tiny Tohru being comforted by her mom. And then in the bottom panel, we see Kisa in her human form again, cradling Toru's hand. Don't hate me, she thinks. Tell me everything's okay. And then we see Tohru embracing Kisa, and Yuki is shown again. And then we see the kind of like, I think still Kisa's continued thoughts that say, I was always so ashamed. I was ashamed of my weakness. But I want you to say it just once, even if it's a lie. I know it will give me the courage to try and become strong. We cut to later that day, and Kyo, who I guess was out all this time, has returned, and he's talking to Haru and Shigure. They thought it would be best, it turns out, if Kisa were to stay with them for a couple of days after everything that happened. Haru explains that Kisa's mother was at her wit's end and suggests that they need some time apart to recuperate. I don't know what the hell you're talking about, and I don't see Kisa anywhere, Kyo says, while, like, poking Haru with his water bottle. And he's like, what are you doing here? Shigure says that Kisa is glued to Tohru, and we cut to upstairs where exactly that is the case. And Kisa is asleep with her head on Toru's lap, and Yuki is like, you haven't moved. Isn't she heavy? And Tohru is like, nope. She's lucky, Yuki says. And Tohru is like, huh? And then he slumps over onto her shoulder, and Tohru is like, eh. Yuki says, please let me watch her for just a little while. It will give me the courage I need to go on. Which I thought was also kind of weird, so I also looked this up. This chapter had a lot of weird translations, in my opinion, but in the Yen press it says, let me do this a little while because it gives me courage and emotional support, which is like a lot more direct, but I also felt like, based on what I could tell from the Japanese version, more like what he says. Like, I don't think he wants to watch Kisa. I think he wants to rest on Tohru. It's more about that. Anyway, that's my opinion, though, also.
Yeah. I thought it probably would have translated as something like, let me stay here for a while.
Yeah.
It's kind of ambiguous.
It is. It's kind of ambiguous, but like literally it says let me do this a little while. So like the way that it says in the Yen press one makes sense, but yeah. I don't know, whatever. Let me watch her for a little while is not, I don't think that's what he meant. It's really weird. Like I guess you could translate it as let me do this, as in stay there and watch her, or like stay there. Yeah, anyway, whatever. Anyway, the point is, it was very charming. He rests his head on Toru's shoulder. There's also an omake here, as we just talked about Takaya Sensei playing video games. Yeah. It's like, sometimes when other people die or leave games, I think, leave me all the items that you have equipped, okay? And then after I've made sure they left all their equipment, I get all depressed about my own heartlessness, which I thought was really funny. Just wanted to include that little slice of life about Takaya. It was really funny. In the next chapter, we see the narration. This is the third day since Kisa-san came here, so it's obviously like Tohru. Almost every time we get narration at the beginning of a chapter, it's Tohru's kind of like announcing what has happened so far. Kisa has been waiting for Tohru outside the bathroom, and Tohru apologizes for making her wait. And then she thinks or says, like, it's kind of embarrassing having people wait for me to come out of the bathroom, which I thought was funny.
It's a really cute thing where she pops up tiger ears in the tail and perks up when Tohru comes out of the bathroom, which is cute.
She's so excited that she's back from the bathroom. She also tugs Tohru's shirt, which is also cute, and Tohru thinks she's so cute, which is true. Kisa is cute.
Yeah. I like the little sound effect of her following Tohru around. It's like tup, tup, tup.
It's like pitter patter, tup, tup, tup. There's a lot of like tup, tup, tup in these two chapters.
Yeah.
More so than ever before. It's like a yame. It's like stomp, 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 ha, ha, ha. Yeah. And like Kisa is like tup, tup, tup. And Tohru is like tup, tup, tup. We see the narration. Strangely, during these 3 days, Kisa-san hasn't left my side, but I guess that means she really likes me. And we see Kisa walking around behind Tohru and helping her carry laundry. And Shigure says she's like a little chick. It warms the heart. And Kyo is like, she's not annoyed being followed like that. Like, Kyo doesn't understand. Tohru walks for a bit and then turns around and grabs Kisa and says, I love you. And then Shigure says she certainly seems to be enjoying it. Kyo says that he's getting hungry, and Toru asks Kisa what she wants for dinner, and Kisa doesn't respond. And Kyo's like, come on, you can't even say what you want to eat? And Kisa looks down, and we see her memory of 3 girls in school uniforms looking mean. I don't know how to describe it. They don't have faces, and it's like got this, whatever, creepy texture over it. Shigure like pounces on Kyo and pats Kisa's head, and he's like, there, you can always count on stupid pushover Kyo to say something foolish. And Kyo is like, hey. And they continue to bicker, and Kisa kind of holds up her hands like she doesn't want them to fight. Toru thinks, that's right, Kisa still can't talk. But soon, I'm sure. And then Toru has an idea and runs off and comes back with paper, and she draws like a ladder lottery thing. I thought there was a word for this in English, but I guess there isn't because I Googled it. This in the text they call it Amida Kuji.
I always see it called ladder game when it gets translated.
Yeah,
because I've seen it in a couple other anime.
There was like hold on, wait. Yeah, so I googled Amida Kuji for this, and Wikipedia also says that it's known as ghost leg in Chinese, and I was like, interesting. I just thought it was funny. There's also another name for it in Korean, which is, it's just like ladder climbing, which is less interesting. But I don't know, ghost leg? Anyway.
What I always think of is in Cardcaptor Sakura, when that's how they decided their roles for the Sleeping Beauty play. Which went up with Sakura as the prince and Charon as the princess.
Of course. It has to be. What a great series. Anyway. All right. Kisa, so Toru draws a little ladder game thing, if you want to call it that. And Kisa picks a spot. It turns out the dish that she chose is called niratama, which is leeks and scrambled eggs, basically. I also Googled it. It says like a dish made of leeks and legs. Leeks and legs.
It does sound like something a tiger would eat, to be fair.
It's like zebra legs. Leeks, and it's a dish. It turns out it's a dish made with leeks and eggs, and so I was like, interesting, and I googled it, and it's basically just like scrambled eggs with leeks. Like it's not, or like a scrambled eggs and Chinese chives or whatever. It's like, it's not. I just thought it was funny. The note said a dish with those things, as if it was implied there were other things, but it's like basically just that. Anyway, whatever. It's fine. So Kyo, of course, is grumpy about this because he hates Anita, as we learned before. And then Toru is worried, but he's like, just do your best. And Kisa smiles.
Oh, this little like strain, just do your best.
He's like, just do your best. That's how I imagine him saying it, at least.
Trying to be nice.
Yes, after Shigure sassed him so strongly for being a dick. Toru's narration finishes. So before she was saying, but soon I'm sure, and her narration finishes, I'm sure that she'll start talking in an adorable voice. Yuki comes in and overhears, like, I'm guessing, there's like, it's kind of like at the bottom of the panel in little tiny dialogue bubbles. It's like Shigure teasing Toru and Kyo about having a lover's tiff over the chives and eggs, and Kyo is like, what? No. And Shigure is like, what? I didn't even think that you knew what a lover's tiff was, or whatever. But Yuki thinks Kisa can't run away forever. So we cut to school, I guess the next day, where Haru, Yuki, Toru, and Momiji are having lunch together, and they wonder what Kisa will do. After all, she can't stay at Shigure's house forever. Haru says she really internalizes her problems, she obsesses over things and makes them a bigger deal than they were before. That's probably why she ended up running away. And her mother, Yuki starts to say. And then Toru notices that Momiji is uncomfortable. Like, she looks over at him, and you can see that he's kind of looking down, and so she chimes in. Momiji-kun, Kisa-san's mother is doing better. She called yesterday. And then we see Toru and Kisa's mother's conversation. And you can see, like, Kisa's mother's side, and she says, is Kisa eating enough? Kisa doesn't like dry foods very much. Her favorite dish is niratama. So, like, that's the dish that she picked. And
Toru rigged it.
She rigged it, definitely. I bet all 3 of them were niratama.
Yeah.
That means that Kisa's Mati is thinking about her, right? If she wasn't, she wouldn't call, right? Right, Toru says, and Momiji beams and says, right. So it was really charming, this little interaction between them. Yuka brings the conversation down again by asking why she was being teased in the first place, and Haru says he doesn't know. But Momiji says that he heard some ladies gossiping. At first, it was just the way she looked, like her hair and her eyes. It made everyone feel weird, they said. Such is the fate of those who are possessed by spirits with unusual hair colors. I got that a lot too, Haru says. And Yuki's like, yeah, but whenever anyone said that to you, you'd go black and beat them to a pulp. And Haru says he wasn't as bad as Kyo. Kyo beat them nearly to death, and Toru was like, eh? Momiji looks down and he's sad and he says, they said Kisa tried really hard. She told them that she couldn't do anything about her hair and her eye color. Then everyone started to ignore her. Then, whenever she said anything, even though they were ignoring her, they would laugh. And Yuki and Haru look upset, and Toru looks even more upset than both of them. Momiji says that he never had anything like that happen to him in class. All I can do is imagine, he says. So that's what I did, wondering how I'd feel if everyone started giggling at me every time I said something. It was a sad feeling, he says, and we see tears in his eyes, and Toru's too, and then they both start to cry. There's a monologue, like inner monologue that's shown. I think it's Yuki's. It's kind of hard to tell. It says, if everything you say gets laughed at, then you become afraid of everyone and are no longer able to speak. Even knowing that all that does is bother people, everything looks completely dark. Your heart shuts down, your words die. And we see Kisa kind of like looking out a window at this point. Yuki pulls out a handkerchief and he dries off Momiji's tears, which I also thought was charming. We got like Toru gave a handkerchief to Haru. Haru bandaged her. Yuki gives a handkerchief to Momiji. It's really charming. Everybody's taking care of each other this episode, or these chapters. It's very charming. Toru also uses her own handkerchief, and the bell rings, and so they all have to go back to class. Haru lets him know that he has a letter from Kisa's teacher, the contents of which will probably make you want to barf, he adds. Haru and Momiji go back to class. Momiji's still like crying a little bit, I think, leaving Toru and Yuki. And Yuki says, and like I think there's a little chibi panel where Toru's like waving at Momiji and Momiji waves back at her, and they're both still crying a little. It's also cute and sad. Yuki says, I know it's not good to be weak and helpless, but I don't think it's good to be too strong either. In our society, they talk about survival of the fittest, but we're not animals. We're human. Even as members of the Zodiac are human, he thinks. Yes, Toru says, smiling and still kind of teary-eyed. Yes. Yuki smiles and says, I think I have gotten braver. And Toru is like, eh? The next scene starts with the narration, what's more important than anything? At Shigure's house, after school, Haru delivers the note to Kisa. She reads it, and then she folds it up right away. Haru asks what it says, and then he kind of like impatiently takes it from her. And then Haru says, it really does make you want to barf. And Yuki reads the note as well. And then we see what the note says while all of this is happening. So the note says, Soma-san, how are you? Will you be coming back to school soon? Everyone in class is waiting for you to come back. You can come to me for advice, so won't you try harder to join everyone? And what's most important for you is to like yourself, Soma-san, to find good things about yourself, and to like yourself for who you are. Because people who don't like themselves can't expect others to like them. Which I also thought, again, was like kind of harsh. So I looked at the Japanese and I looked at the Yen Press translation, and the Yen Press one says, you can always come to me for advice, but I suggest you take a more active role in class and interact with your peers. Which I also thought made more sense and was a little bit less jerky thing to say. Although, like, I think the note is meant to be taken as kind of, based on the rest of the conversation that happens, it's not meant to be taken as being nice, but I thought it was a little bit more nicely phrased that way.
I don't really see a difference between
like you should take a more active role in class, and it's like you should try harder to join everyone.
Yeah, I don't really see much of a difference in that.
Maybe there's not much of a difference. I just thought like you should try harder to join everyone sounded a little, it's like, won't you try harder to join everyone?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, well, I think that's supposed to be the point, is that
take a more active role.
Isn't paying any attention to what's going on because she has tried, and that's not the issue.
For sure.
Yeah.
Yuki lowers the note. On that note, Yuki lowers the note and says, there was a time when I stopped talking just like you. My reasons were a little different, but, and then we see Kisa kind of looking up at him. I think the feelings of being ashamed of myself and hating myself are the same. Here, he gesticulates to the letter. It says, to like yourself. What does that mean? Good things. How are you supposed to find them? I only know the things I hate about myself. Because that's all I know. I hate myself. But even if you force yourself to find good things, it feels so empty. And he, like, drops the letter. People like your teacher just don't get it. I think when you hear someone say they like you for the first time, then you can begin to like yourself. I think when someone accepts you for the first time, you can feel like you can forgive yourself a little. And you can begin to face your fears with courage. And at the bottom of the page, we see Yuki's memories of Tohru, her crying about Kisa earlier. And also, we get a flashback to the garden scene. On the next page, we see Kisa crying, remembering Tohru saying, "I love you," and remembering when she first transformed back to her, like, human form outside and was, like, holding Tohru's hand. "Yeah," Kisa says, and Haru looks over at her in surprise. "Yeah, I was happy. Or I was so happy," she says. Haru is about to talk to her, but Yuki kind of, like, cuts him off, and he's like, "Kisa, what do you want to do next? Do you think it's okay to stay like this?" And Kisa shakes her head. "No, never. I have to try my best, or I'll become worse and worse. Even if I can't make up with them, even if they all ignore me. Even if my heart is still seen as inferior," she thinks. Or maybe Yuki thinks, because we see Yuki's face and we see Akito, so maybe it's Yuki's thoughts, but these are, like, also more ambiguous thoughts.
I think a lot of the internal narration from these chapters is meant to be kind of applied to both Kisa and Yuki. Sort of ambiguous on who's actively thinking them.
Yeah, it's kind of like the part with Kyo and Yuki running back to Tohru at New Year's. I think, like, if once we see this animated too, it would probably be a little bit clearer, because sometimes it's. But yeah, I definitely think that it applies to both of them for sure. I just think, like, because it's overlaid on Akito.
But I think that definitely brings that back to Yuki's part of the trauma.
Yeah, for sure. Because we know at this point is that Kisa's trauma is based on her class, and his is probably based on Akito, based on all the things that we've seen so far. So
yeah.
"I still have to try my best," she says. "That's right," Yuki says. And he thinks, "Someday I'll have to stand up for my worthless self," which is also kind of why I think the Akito memory is his. Like, that's the part it continues in the internal monologue.
Yeah.
"Let's try our best," he says, kneeling by Kisa. "I'll try too. And if you get sad again or things get too rough, come here." Here, he thinks, is where she is. It's kind of, like, overlaid with Tohru. Haru hugs Kisa and says, "It's been so long, you finally spoke." And then we see the inner monologue of Yuki, I guess. "Let's try our best, question mark. I hope that someday the many tears that were shed will be worth it." Later that night, Yuki takes Kisa to meet Tohru after work. "One-chan," she calls. "One-chan." And then Tohru drops her bag and runs over to hug her, and it's all very sweet.
Like most people listening probably know, but One-chan means big sister and tends to be used to just address, like, slightly older girls that you're close to.
Yes. Yeah. It's a term of endearment, one might say. Then we see Toru's narration. "Kisa decided to go back to school. Even though it will take her a while to get used to speaking again, everyone walked her part of the way there. But not Yuki, because he had something to do. I don't know." "To be honest," Tohru thinks, "I was sad to see Kisa-san leave my side. I'll cope with it. I have to. After all, Kisa-san is fighting so bravely. Try your best. Try your best, Kisa-san." And then we see what Yuki's errand was. He's gone to school early to tell the president that he will succeed him as student body president. And the president drops his papers in shock. And there's, like, a little note that says, like, you have to be elected, which is really weird. So does he just, like, I don't know, whatever. I mean, I'm sure Yuki would win if there was an election anyway, but whatever. Yuki apologizes for running away. He wants to make up for it by fulfilling the duties of student body president. "I humbly request your guidance," he says. And the president is like, "Oh, you're doing this for me?" And Yuki is like, "No." And then he bounces. "It's not that I've suddenly become stronger," he thinks. And we see Kisa approaching the classroom door, determination and, like, nervous sweat on her face. And then she reaches out to open it. Yuki's thoughts continue. So he said, "It's not that I've suddenly become stronger or that something has changed. I'm still shaking. But we don't have to let those fears stop us. What's most important is that we try to rise above our weaknesses." And then that's the end of these 2 chapters. And Kisa's very charming.
She is. I like Kisa.
I like Kisa.
She's adorable in human and tiger form.
Yes. One thing that I think is interesting about Kisa's tiger form is that it's drawn, like, so much more realistically than some of the Zodiac. I'm like, maybe Takaya likes drawing tigers or something. Like, I don't know. Like,
maybe it's just to make it more obviously not
a cat. Like, Kyo, in comparison, he just looks like a cartoon cat. And then, like, Kisa's got, like, detailed, like, fur and, like, stripes and stuff. I just thought it was interesting. It's not just a stripy cat, it's a tiger. But then I like how Tohru was like, "It's a cat. What a cute cat." Yeah.
I love Yuki's like, "I thought she'd say that."
Yeah, I know. I feel like they know each other well. I guess one thing we learned about the Zodiac is that a lot of them are picked on for looking different than other people. Like, we actually got confirmation of that from...
Yeah, we've gotten some slight indications of that with Haru and the president and
Yeah.
Like Kyo's been like teased by the teacher,
Right.
and she's like, "I'm gonna
Gonna dye
dye
your
your hair
hair
black."
black. Yeah, and his friends and like Uo tease him. They call him like Orangey or whatever as well.
Yeah, and we even saw it in Ayame's flashback where
Mm-hmm.
it was like, "I've accepted your weird hair color, but who said it could be long?"
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah,
I'm gonna call the head of the family,
yeah.
the 6-year-old head of the family, or whatever. Yeah, so we did see that before, but we heard kind of like more about their reactions,
Mm-hmm.
which I think we talked about how the Zodiac is, I think we've talked about before how it's set up as being very insular. Like, we heard from Matori that only certain people in the family know about the curse.
Mm-hmm.
There's like a main part of the main house that's reserved just for them. There's like a banquet just for them. They have this really tight inner circle. And I think things like this, like their physical appearance, of course, makes it easy for them to be separated from like regular society. So when other people pick on them,
Yeah.
it just makes them even more isolated.
Mm-hmm.
That scene specifically where they're talking about what happened to Kisa, I find that really interesting. Like, I actually found it kind of meta because normally, so far at least, we've seen a couple of times where people talked about things that happened to other people, but normally, like, what we see is something directly happening, or we see someone directly talking about a flashback of theirs. Like, for example, Momiji remembering stuff about his mother, or Tohru remembering stuff about her mother that her mother said or something. In this case, Momiji told us about what happened to Kisa, and then we saw all of the other characters reacting to that very,
Mm-hmm.
very empathetically. Like, so much so that Momiji and Tohru cry, so much
Mm-hmm.
so that they're all really upset about it. And I just thought it was kind of interesting. I just felt like it was a much stronger reaction than sometimes when we see like other things that have happened so far. When the
Mm-hmm.
person isn't even there, like when they're all talking about Kisa and she's not there.
Yeah. I think it's because like all the characters there are finding out about it for the first time.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's
So you've
true.
seen their reactions. Like everyone else, the flashback, like they're either telling their own story or telling something that happened a while ago.
Mm-hmm.
Like with Hattori's flashback and Momiji's flashback, and Momiji telling about Hattori's flashback, things like that.
Yeah, that's true. There was that time.
Mm-hmm.
And Toru cried about that too, actually.
Yeah.
But I felt like in this case, I guess, yeah, they're all hearing about it for the first time. And I just felt like I feel like it kind of enforced, like, I mean, obviously, like, I think the motif that's really coming through strongly, or maybe a theme in these chapters, is about being empathetic for other
Mm-hmm.
people. And so I felt like it was a scene that kind of like solidified that because they're all reacting so empathetically to the situation that Kisa is in.
Mm-hmm.
I just thought
Yeah.
it,
And I
it
think
was
it's also
interesting.
enforcing like obviously a lot of parallels are made between Kisa and Yuki in this
Totally.
chapter. That's got Yuki hearing about it in addition to the others there.
Mm-hmm. Drying Momichi's tears.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yuki is the hero of this chapter, I feel like.
Mm-hmm.
I feel like Toru kind of gets Kisa to come around, but really the person who makes the deepest connection with her is Yuki, which is an
Mm-hmm.
interesting like point of growth for him, I think.
Yeah.
And it's well paired with him deciding that he's going to face his fears of being part of the student council or whatever.
Yeah,
Fears
because it
or
has to. Yeah, it has him like he has to acknowledge like the issue himself in order to talk to Kisa.
mm-hmm.
Because like when it's brought up for the first time by Haru, he just like storms off.
Yeah, he doesn't
He's upset about it. He doesn't try to like make that connection at that point.
mm-hmm. And he's also like, why do you care so much? Like, not exactly,
Mm-hmm.
but he seems kind of standoffish about it too. He's
Mm-hmm.
like, oh, you guys are such good friends that you care. And he's like, well, it reminds me of you. And then Shigure, I feel like the scene where Shigure is like, what, are you embarrassed? I felt like he was kind of, I don't really understand why he was trying to provoke Yuki so much. Like,
Yeah,
it's weird. Like, it's kind of,
he's got kind of a pattern of doing that. And
well, he kind
he's
of,
done it a few times. Well, there's I can't remember exactly what it is though, but there's a time when he provokes Kyo. Like
that was the
I
date.
can't remember who. I think Yuki was there and asked like why he was doing that or whatever, and he's like, I don't know, he just ticked me off that time or something.
Yeah, that's exactly
Like
what happened.
yeah.
So yeah. And then even Haru like fourth wall comments on it is like,
Mm-hmm.
you really have a habit of like pushing people too far.
Yeah.
And he's like, it's just by nature. But
Mm-hmm.
yeah, I thought that was kind of noteworthy. And you're right, Yuki runs off and he has to acknowledge how he feels about himself before he can help Kisa.
Mm-hmm.
Before he can like explain to her how he relates to her.
Yeah.
Speaking of which, Yuki also says I hate myself. You know, like at the very beginning, he says people might have the wrong idea about me being president or something in his conversation with Toru.
Mm-hmm.
And then she's like, what? And he's like, never mind. And then later he says he hates himself and that, he's like not very self-confident or whatever. Do you
Yeah.
think that that's what he was kind of referring to?
Yeah, I think he was like voicing his doubts. Like he's like, I don't know what they expect. I'm not going to be good at this. I'm not,
Mm-hmm.
like I'm a, worthless person. What do they want me to do as president, kind of thing.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and then he turns that around and helps Kisa too,
Mm-hmm.
or at least he acknowledges enough that he has that problem that he can then relate to Kisa, and that helps her. I
Mm-hmm.
think. And he's like,
Yeah.
let's both try to like get through this together, which is nice.
Mm-hmm.
I thought it was interesting. So we saw him like resting his head on Toru's shoulder. That was cute. He
Yeah.
also acknowledged that he kind of needs to be around Toru as well. Like he kind of
Mm-hmm.
sort of acknowledged that by telling Kisa that she can come back and be there where come back here if things get too rough. He kind of acknowledged that like this is also how he feels. I think like he needs
Yeah.
that emotional support from Toru, and we saw that at the end too. And I also thought it was interesting how also in the scene where they were talking about what happened to Kisa, Yuki said something about Kisa's mother, and then we saw Momiji's concern like immediately, and then
Mm-hmm.
Toru also quickly stepped in and was like, "It's fine. I just talked to her last night. Everything's gonna be fine," and that kind of
Yeah.
helped. And he was super relieved looking, and
Mm-hmm.
he smiles. I thought that was interesting.
Yeah. The whole like comparison there, because the Sakisa's mom's like at the end of her rope at this point, obviously,
Mm-hmm.
but she's very obviously making an effort,
Mm-hmm.
which Luigi's mom didn't really do.
Not at the end, I guess. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. We'll never know. We only saw that one part, but
Yeah.
I guess like it's at the point where Momiji feels like it could go either way or something, and
Mm-hmm.
so he's upset
Yeah.
about it. Yeah, I don't know. It was nice. It's nice to see everybody's relationships developing. Like all these
Yeah.
times that everybody was helping each other, and
Mm-hmm.
it's like how we talked about last time. How like everybody feels kind of real because they have these like they don't have these like very static relationships. Like
Mm-hmm.
like they're all eating and Kyo is not there, or like Kyo comes in and he's like, what the hell? And that was funny.
Yeah.
But like this, like Toru helps Haru helps Toru helps Momiji, like Yuki helps
Yeah.
Kisa, Toru helps Kisa. Like it was really
Mm-hmm.
it was cute. It
Yeah.
was interesting.
Yeah. There's lots of cute interactions. Also, like Kyo and Haru kind of
Right. Yeah,
their
because
little like kind of
he's like, what are you doing here? Yeah.
yeah. While he's like poking him with the water
Yeah, it
bottle.
was really funny.
Yeah. I feel like Kyo is even trying to help Kisa in his own way. He's just not good at it.
Yes, he needs to learn to hurt others and get hurt by them.
Yeah.
But I like how Shigure stepped in and was like, don't listen to him. He's an
Yeah.
idiot. And it was like really funny.
Yeah. Like I feel like he probably thought he was being encouraging.
Yeah.
It's like, what? Come on, you can say what you want for dinner. That's
Yeah.
easy.
Yeah. It is. I feel like that's the way that I've interpreted it as well. Like,
Mhm.
he's like, you can do it
Yeah.
in his Kyo way. Do you have any other non-spoiler things?
I don't think so.
Well, then that's it for now, I think. Well, unless you stick around for spoilers, next time we're going to talk about episodes 29 and 30. Did I say episodes? Next time we're going to talk about chapters 29 and 30. So you can find us at staytogetherpodcast.com, Stay Together Podcast on Tumblr, Stay Together Pod on Twitter. You can email us. Also, you can find us on YouTube, like I said at the beginning. I just want to thank you all again for listening as always, and we'll see you next time.
Bye-bye.
Bye. Spoilers. It's spoiler time. Are you ready to talk about spoilers?
Always ready to talk about spoilers.
It's like I'm always so ready to talk about spoilers that it's hard to not talk about spoilers. Oh, can we talk about what was Shigure trying to do in that scene with Haru? Like, why was he trying to provoke Yuki? He was like, what are you embarrassed? Haru was like, well, you used to curl up and not say anything. And Shigure is like, what are you embarrassed? Then Yuki like walks off. I thought that was kind of excessive.
I feel like his whole thing is like trying to push people forcibly into like confronting their issues and growing as people, like in like he's always in the most jerkish way possible.
Yeah.
But like he seems to think that will like help to break the curse, or at least like break the whole like bond with Aikido of everyone.
Yeah, I guess he does. I mean, he definitely does that.
Because he talks about the end how he's like his whole goal is just to like have it so it's just like him and Aikido basically, and like breaking the curse seems to be is kind of part of that.
Yeah, because he doesn't want everybody to have that same connection that he has with Aikido.
Yeah. And it seems like he's always trying to like push people as like part of that goal.
Yeah, like, I mean, I guess a lot of their hang-ups center around Aikido, so he's always
Hmm.
trying to get them to do like certain things, like we talked about the time when he tried to provoke Kyo into going on the double date. But I can't
Yeah.
remember exactly what he said.
Yeah, I can't remember it exactly right
Um,
now.
he said something to Kyo, and Kyo ran off. And didn't he have a flash of Toru's mother as well?
I think so.
But Shigure doesn't know anything about that, so it's like I guess he just sensed
No,
that
but
Kyo was uncomfortable, and so he pushed him.
yeah.
Same with like this, like Yuki obviously reacted really strongly, and so then of course Shigure decided to push him again as well.
Hmm.
It's just an interesting choice, I feel like
Hmm.
this specifically, but I don't know.
Yeah, I think he's just good at keying in on people's issues and insecurities and wants to push at that.
Hmm. He's the strongest empath of all. He just
Yeah.
uses his powers for evil and not good.
Yeah. Sort of good in the
Sort of
end.
good.
Just in
It's evil in the moment.
yeah, the goal,
The goal.
end result and goal is good, but
It's like he's like he'll use any method to get to. Actually, he
yeah.
said that directly to Atori, didn't he? He's like, I'll do whatever I want to like, even I'll do whatever regardless of if it hurts people or not to like get what
Yeah.
I want.
He's very ends justify means.
Yeah, I think so. It's not that he like it's not like he wants to be a dick all the time, but he feels like
Hmm.
it's the best way to get them to change or something.
Yeah, it kind of seems like that.
Hmm. He can be. He has the power to be genuinely concerned, to like read people's emotions and be genuinely concerned,
Yeah.
as we saw when Toru said that she wanted to visit her mother's grave. I feel like,
Hmm.
but in this case, I just felt like he was being a dick for no reason,
Yeah.
really, or I guess to try to get him over his fears.
Yeah. I think he just never misses an opportunity to push people.
Yeah, especially
Mhm.
Yuki probably because he knows how many hangups Yuki has. I think
Yeah.
so, and like how many emotional issues and how much trauma Yuki's been through. So
Speaking of Yuki's trauma, he's gonna become president and it's gonna be really good for him.
yes, so much growth for Yuki is coming.
Made a good choice.
I like how he was like, I feel like I've become braver already, which I think is true.
Hmm. I'm excited every time I see student council hints.
It's okay, they'll be here soon, I
I
think. Not really. But
think
it was,
they show up at the end of volume 6 or 7. I can't remember which exactly, but because I remember everyone was like, "Who are these people? These
yeah.
mysterious people talking about Yuki?" Because it was Kakeru Machi at the end of one of the chapters.
Yeah, and then it takes forever for them to come back.
Yeah, because then they went to the beach house forever, and
Yeah.
then they turn out to be totally not mysterious.
Yeah. Yeah. I thought it was interesting how they showed. This is unrelated to the student council. Sorry, I'm bringing it back. They showed. So we talked briefly, I think, about that scene with Akito, where it's like Yuki's inner monologue and Akito is shown. And I was trying to figure out if it's Yuki or Kisa, and I'm pretty sure it's supposed to be Yuki's inner thoughts, but also like, Kisa been abused by Akito at this point? I forget. I couldn't remember if that happens later or before this.
I feel like she has, but I can't remember. I'd have to see the hero chapter to
Yeah, I also
remember. But
was struggling to remember.
yeah, I did think of that though. I was like, oh, I wonder if it's an illusion.
Yeah. I mean, it could certainly relate to both of them, I'm sure, because for sure Kisa would have been abused
I
by
think she
Akito.
must have because, like, I think Toru would know if Kisa had gotten hurt.
Toru would know.
'Cause,
Oh, you mean later?
yeah, like if it had happened after they
Yeah.
met. Because she wasn't like hidden away or anything when she was hurt. She was like,
No, she was just like slapped. I mean, not just, but
yeah,
she was physically abused, but like in the presence of Hiro. That's part of like his hangups, right?
yeah,
It's kind of like that's the way that Akito was trying to drive them apart, to
hmm,
isolate them.
yeah,
But the bullying at school was not related to Akito. Just
no,
I'm sure added on to everything that Kisa was going through.
hmm, yeah. Because wasn't part of the issue also that Hiro was pulling away from Kisa at the same time that her classmates
Oh,
were bullying her
probably.
because he was trying not to get her hurt by Aikido.
Yeah.
But it turned out to be like terrible timing.
Yeah. Yeah. Basically, everybody in her life
Yeah,
pieced at the same time.
yeah,
Probably even Akito, because then Akito would have done what she wanted to do. So
hmm,
she probably wasn't getting that much attention from Akito either. Yeah, I don't know. We'll have to see. Sorry, peeps. I don't remember what happens. We've gotten to the part of the story where, like, I don't remember most of the stuff in the middle of these chapters. So,
hmm,
but yeah, I think That will be coming relatively soon because Hero will be introduced relatively soon.
Yeah. Hero's like right after the true form arc.
Exactly. It's Kyo's true form, the true form arc, and then there's some stuff with Yuki, and then Hero's introduced right after that. So it's like a couple chapters after that, which we're swiftly coming up to. We are we're like 2 chapters or 3 chapters away from the true form arc.
Only 2 chapters left of this volume, and then volume 6 is when it all goes down.
Yep. It all goes down. That's coming very soon. Get excited.
Yeah.
I guess it's a good time to say, like, which I'll announce before as well, but we're going to probably read all of the true form chapters at once, which will be 4 chapters. 31, 32, 34. Yeah, it'll be 4 chapters. And we'll do like a 2-part episode about that. So get excited. Yeah. That's all I have to say about that.
Do the reading.
Yeah, everybody. I think they've already done the reading already.
Yeah.
I think most people who listen to this have already listened to it before, but I'm not sure. That's just my speculation based on notes and stuff we get. Yep, so that's coming. And then it'll be Hero. And then we'll find out. We'll learn more.
Yeah, one other little thing. It's not really like a spoiler. It just made me think of it. But like at the part where Kyo is quote unquote encouraging Kisa. I think it's kind of cute. They have like a little bit later on where Kisa's like actively trying to befriend Kyo, which is cute.
Yeah. Am I imagining that she was like scared of him at first or something? I forget exactly.
There's a bit where she like says hello and he says hi back and she's all excited about it.
Yeah.
And she says like,
he said hi to me.
Yeah, and she's like, he's actually really nice.
Yeah, something like that. Yeah, and then later, like really way, way toward the end, there's that scene where Hiro and Kisa come across Kyo and he's like barfing after arguing with his father, and like Kisa gives him her handkerchief, of course, and like he thinks of her as being like Tohru, which is really interesting. Yeah, I think it's like probably a relationship that we don't get to see very much of, but I'm sure they would have an interesting relationship too.
Yeah, so there's a lot of ones that we only get a little bit of, but are really cute. And a little bit we do get, so that's one I like, which is cute.
Yes, it's their cat connection.
So just a little interaction. This one, I was like, aw.
Yeah, and she's like not offended. I mean, not deeply. She was a little bit upset, but then Shigure is like, "Don't worry about it. He's an idiot." And then she kind of like raises her hands, like she wants to calm them down, which is also funny too. It's okay. Yeah, poor Kisa. Yeah. Kisa's so great, though. I love Kisa.
Yeah, she's just super cute. Like, every time she shows up, I'm just like, aw.
Yeah. She's like, it's like Momiji and her, like, the breath of fresh air that is so desperately needed sometimes in these stories. And her relationship with Tohru is very charming. They have such a great relationship. I like how later with Rin, like, Tohru tries to be her friend, and Rin is like, no, I don't want to be close to you. Whereas Kisa is like, One-chan, or whatever, right? Yeah. It's cute. So it's nice. Kisa's finally here. We're getting there. How many people are left to meet? We have to meet
Mitsu, Rin, and Kureno.
Hiro. Kureno.
Might be it.
Yeah, that might be it.
Yeah.
And
4 more Zodiacs and some student council.
And then we haven't met like Ren yet. I was just looking at something and I was like, oh, there's Ren.
Yeah.
I did think it was interesting. This is also not spoilery, but I thought it was interesting how like Momiji heard the whole scoop from like the ladies. He's like, oh, I heard some rumors, every single thing about what happened.
Yeah.
Like, of course they would know.
Yeah. Well, it does seem like this is a spoiler. It does seem like the maids at the main house are really gossipy.
Yeah, totally.
And Momiji lives in the main house, so.
Yeah. No, they have
he probably gets all the scoop. Totally.
I think, that's a whole thing. They're interesting, I think, in and of themselves, the maids.
Yeah, they're really interesting just in their position in the house, because, like, they know everything.
They do. And they kind of, like, act like they're all high and mighty, too. Like, they...
Yeah, like, and, like, the older ones, like, act like they have some degree of control of the family.
Yeah. They sure act like they do.
Yeah.
Yeah.
They do. It's like they do when they can successfully manipulate a keto.
Mm-hmm.
Whoever can manipulate a keto.
Who's the true head of the family? Yeah. Yeah, Ren was never able to do that, which is why she was never in control. There's like I was looking at the end because I was planning out all the rest of the episodes, like how many there would be and like what content to cover and all of them. And there was a scene with after the curse breaks and stuff, and one of the maids is like, I liked you more before or something, like, or I liked how it was before. And Yeah, it's really interesting how involved they are in the depths of the family. They're part of the, like, secret society inside that knows everything. Yeah, I don't know. I don't have any other spoilery things. Like, most of this, again, it was like, okay, we met a new character, we got their backstory, and so
Yep.
we're in a good place for next time. What's happening next time?
They're fairly fluffy chapters.
Oh, the Prince Yuki fan club goes to Hana's, and Tohru fails an exam and catches a cold.
Yeah.
According to my notes.
Yeah, fairly fluffy chapters. So.
That's good, because this one was still kind of upsetting, and now it's going to be Kyo's true form, which is also upsetting.
Yeah.
Very, very upsetting. So
I think these were I need to fill some chapters before I start the next volume with all this chapters. So.
Yeah.
Yeah, I feel like we get Megumi.
Yeah, we do. I think we get a little Hana backstory too. In that time too. So, I think that's it for this episode then.
Yep.
Kayla, we didn't talk enough about animals this time.
You know the happy noise that tigers make when they greet you is called a chuff.
Oh, do they like snort? Like
kind of kind of sound, but tigery.
Like a horse.
Yeah, but it's like a kind of a like happy greeting sound that they make. And so like you'll see them make it toward like at the zoos, you'll see it. They'll make it toward their keepers and stuff. Oh. Because they're fairly solitary animals.
Yeah.
So.
Tigers are very charming. I feel like they'd be really squishy if you got to touch one. that's my it's my
I feel like they
factual
would be
opinion. They probably would be. You're probably right. Did I actually say goodbye? Hold on.
I don't think we did.
You think we did?
I don't think we did.
Okay.
Distracted by animals.
Okay. Thank you all for listening. We'll see you next time.
Bye.
Maybe not the ones at the zoo. They'd probably be a little bit puffy, a little bit squishy.
I remember watching some like zoo vet show when I was younger, and they like had a tiger that they had to like knock out for some kind of procedure, and they had like a class of kids like come and like they were allowed to like touch the tiger while it was under anesthesia, so they were like feeling its huge paws and everything. I was like, that's so cool.
You're like, I want to touch a sedated tiger.
Yeah.
They're very cute. I can see why people try to illegally keep them as pets, like crazy people.
Yeah.
Just like those illegal parrots that tell fortunes.
Or the cassowary that killed a man in Florida.
Oh my god. Can't believe people keep cassowaries as pets. Yeah, I can't imagine them being charming enough to be kept as a pet.
They're neat, but I might take a tiger before I took a cassowary.
I think I would take a tiger before a cassowary. I feel like yeah. I would take all of them before I take a monkey, though, to be honest. Yeah. So
just a chimp, maybe like
I can't believe people keep chimps
a capuchin or something, but definitely not a chimp.
No. Chimps are the worst.
They're too much like people. They're terrible.
They are. That's the point. Yeah. It's too much. This is why I have fish.
Yeah.
And you have a tiny bird, not a cassowary.
Yes, very tiny bird. Not one that can kick me to death with 5-inch claws. Or
claw you to death. Yeah, exactly. He can't maul you to death.
No. He has drawn blood on me, though.
How rude. I never had a fish draw blood on me because I don't have any of those big, like, cichlids or anything that bite. So.
Piranhas.
No. I think you can keep piranhas, but I wouldn't. Or, like, lionfish.
They're so creepy when they're, like when you see them at an aquarium and they're just hovering.
Waiting to chomp. Yeah. They have like these like big underbite looking mouths that make them look creepy.
Masterpieces of evolution.
Bloop, 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 bloop. And then you see seahorses and you're like, what the fuck?
Yeah. I like the leafy sea dragons.
They're cool too. They're all leafy looking and shit, one might say. I'm Googling leafy sea dragon. And then I probably need to sleep. Yeah, they're all wiggly wobbly.
Have we met our animal quota?
Yeah, I think so. They're so wiggly.